Good day. Welcome to a Western Standard Special. I'm Cory Morgan. I know you're used to me coming up on your Wednesday scroll with my weekly show. I'll be back again tomorrow with more of that. But we had a special opportunity to speak to somebody today who's been touring Alberta and livening a lot of things up. He's been stirring the pots for quite some time throughout North America. So, I mean, we couldn't pass this up. And this is fantastic. So today in studio, we have Dr. James Lindsay.
Oh, I forgot about that. Good day,
eh? Yeah, good day.
Yeah, good to be here.
Should have had the beers on the go and everything for the old classic Canadian thing.
Strange Brew, yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up on that.
Underrated movie, that.
It's classic.
It's fantastic. So, yeah, I mean, it's great to have you up here. This is your first visit to Calgary then? Or?
Yeah, first visit to Alberta, too. Yeah, it's great. I was saying as we drove into the city how gorgeous it is. It's a really pretty city.
Yeah, it really has its moments. I mean, we still have our challenges here like everywhere else. But
I'm looking at the leaves. It's in its moment. It's like, this is the time.
Yeah, it is. We're seeing the colors right now anyways. So, I mean, we'll get down to it. You've been a couple of stops in Alberta, events going on. You had one last night in Edmonton. It's partnered with Take Back Alberta.
Yeah.
I'll let you introduce it. What's the event about?
Well, I mean, it's about protecting the kids. So I'm here. David Parker, Take Back Alberta, had me come up to try to give color for the Albertans to what's going on in the world. Why people know they're getting their kids are being targeted. Why? What's happening? What's going on behind it? And the answer I'm giving is Maoism, a Maoism that's been adapted to the North American context through race and gender and sexuality. And it's really resonated with the crowd. The crowd was lit up last night. We had like something like 800 people show up. The energy was high. People said it was one of the more clarifying things that they'd heard, that light bulbs are going off. So I'm trying to give people the understanding of what's going on. And I mean, the US is a little bit further down the road than you guys. We maybe actually have passed ripeness and you guys are a little worse off than we are now. But Canada's coming along, Britain's coming along, the whole Western world is coming along with this woke project. Well, what is it? And I'm trying to answer that question.
Yeah, well, and it gets mischaracterized a lot. I mean, it's really stirred things up. People have gotten very emotional. I mean, from what I interpret is this movement is trying to wedge itself between parents and their children.
That is.
It's saying that you can't be trusted with raising your children responsibly. So we, through the state, are going to take that on. And we're seeing that in Canada where they're saying schools shouldn't even be allowed to tell parents what their children under 16 are doing in class. But I think they've crossed the line. I mean, do you feel the same?
I've actually been saying for a few years, if they ever got into the sexualization stuff, the kids stuff, that was it for them. And I kind of, there's the person me who cares and doesn't want these bad things to happen. And then there's the kind of, culture war me who's like, finally, they've taken the step. Now we can win. And so I was pretty excited in that regard to see them decide to cross the line, that it's really an uncrossable line. And they did. It is people can argue, is it communism? Is it fascism? Is it something new or whatever? It doesn't matter. It's totalitarianism. And totalitarianism always tries to break apart the three things that are most in its way, which are family, faith, and property. And so they have to get in between people and their faith, people and their families. So there's your parents and kids, and then they have to start disrupting property rights so they can control people's lives. And this is what's visiting the Western world. The tactics are straight out of Mao Zedong from China in the 1960s Cultural Revolution. And it's most visceral. I was speaking with some of the Sikh leaders in Edmonton yesterday, and they said, if they take our kids, they take everything. That's the last thing. We have nothing left. And so it's awakened a fire in people that crosses all borders. Political, religious, doesn't matter.
Well, the polls are showing that even though our prime minister has been supportive of this woke garbage, people in general are not supporting this. I mean, myself, I'm pretty socially liberal, actually, but I want it to be between me and my children to discuss these things. As I said, that line is crossed when the school is getting in the middle, the school is dominated by teachers unions and woke individuals and others. And I think a lot of other progressives are feeling the same way. They might be fully supportive of trans ideology and all those things, but they want it to be between them and their children, not the state and their children. That's a big line.
It's a huge line. It is, in fact, like we said, it's the uncrossable line. It has been crossed. I have the feeling, and I'm getting the sense, at least in this part of Canada, it's probably more broadly in Canada, hearing what you're saying, but in the United States, at least, the term I use for this woke garbage now is that it's a zombie ideology. It already died. People hate it. People don't like it. They're not on board with it. They hear it. They roll their eyes. They're tired of it. It's got its hardcore, base of support. But for the most part, people are sick of it. They don't want to hear it anymore. You had your day in the sun. Move on. And the institutions, on the other hand, the government, the state, has not moved on. they're just ramming it on people. And this disconnect is causing, in my opinion, actually a downward spiral for the ideology itself. People don't want it. They're tired of it. The government's forcing it. That makes people want it even less and get more tired of it. And it's just a downward spiral for the whole ideology.
Well, the ideologues themselves, they're something of a mouse that roars, though. Like they do manage to get out there and get a disproportionate amount of airtime or influence on things. We're seeing that with the pushback for your events.
Yeah.
Which, again, they've been trying to chase your events away from venues.
Yeah.
But these protests never materialize because they're really, I would posit there's not
Right.
that many people protest.
No, I think that's true. And I've seen that in the States. I've seen cases where entire school boards are being pushed around by hundreds of people where they investigate and it's 6 that they're calling repeatedly or emailing using different email accounts and all of this stuff. And this has been the case. I've been canceled on these 2 events here, Edmonton, Calgary, 5 times. The ticket vendor got canceled. One venue in Edmonton and 3 here in Calgary have been canceled on us to try to prevent us from having the event. And, online, it started to circulate that I would speak in a Denny's parking lot. And I was like, you're damn right I will. I'm not afraid. I'll get a megaphone and talk to people out on the street. I don't care. But the fact is that just left Edmonton. The venue there was actually some East Indians hosted us, a very nice, banquet hall they have. I think it's set up for weddings. It was very pretty. And they got over 200 phone calls. Oh, I don't want this to happen. They're just using you. They don't like you. They're not your friends. We're getting along great. Everybody's having a great evening. The guy was completely mystified, by what's going on to the phone calls versus reality. And did anybody show up? Well, if they did, they didn't say a word. They didn't make themselves visible. It was all virtual. It was all phone calls, emails, online petitions, noise on social media. Mouse that roars is a good way. I don't know that the protest really even exists. Maybe it's 6 guys, as Trump once said, maybe it's 6 guys in their basement, making phone calls all day long to try to intimidate the community.
Yeah, well, and so before we go further, I should remind people then, for those watching it today, which is the Tuesday, that there is an event tonight in Calgary. Because of these chasing around on the venues, people can sign up, but they won't find out where exactly it's going to be until a couple hours before the event takes place.
Yeah.
Where can people sign up for this event and get registered?
It's through the Take Back Alberta, social media and website. So you'll have to go to Take Back Alberta, go to your search engine, type in Take Back Alberta, you'll find it. I found it in one try when I was on the airplane trying to show somebody about the events when I was flying in. So I know you can find it. Take Back Alberta, go to their website. And you can go ahead and register for the event. There's still, from what I understand, about 100 seats available, and you'll find out where the venue is a couple hours in advance, so these people won't get harassed by the 6 guys in their basement or whatever. Yeah,
well, and it's interesting as well. It's just, I guess, the nature of identity politics and where things have gotten. Something that changed this time was minority groups are getting up. And it gets forgotten that we have a very diverse population in Canada, but observant Sikhs and particularly Islamic followers have little use for the woke stuff. And it was one of the most patronizing things I ever saw was when Muslim groups were a large part of the recent March for Children.
Yeah.
And Prime Minister Trudeau said along the lines of, they've been misled and they don't understand. Like, talk about talking down, basically saying you're too stupid to understand what you're protesting and extremists have led you astray. That only infuriated them further, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, it's like when Larry Elder ran for governor in California and they called him the black face of white supremacy on the front page of the LA Times or whatever. It's not about what you look like. It's not about where you came from. It's not about your sex, your gender, any of this. It's not about any of that. It's about whether you agree with them or not. If you agree, then you're good. And if you don't agree, then you're a white supremacist, so you've been misled. We've got, they say in the United States now that the white supremacy movement is multicultural. It's a multicultural whiteness movement or something like that. So it's just whether you agree with them or whether you don't agree with them determines whether you're a racist or whatever. We spent the day with the Sikhs and Muslims yesterday. All they talked about is how much they love Canada, how much they want Canadian values. It was great. And then we come to the event and they hosted me. So I congratulated them because what happens in the United States when something like that happens, they are now white. The Sikhs are now white because they hosted me. So, observant Sikhs, white people in Canada from now on, because it's the only move that the activists have. If you don't agree with them, they have to classify you with a identity category that they've turned into a smear and try to smear you with it. And it's horrible. It's patronizing. You see it from the top of the government, from Trudeau. We see it from President Biden. I almost got sick saying President Biden, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, we're stuck with Trudeau. I assure you, I know the feeling very well. And there's room for discussion on the family unit, the importance of the family unit, the strength of the family unit. It's been an interesting thing with identity politics, watching Asian populations in North America doing fantastic. They economically, socially, all over the place. The Jewish community as well. They've had some really rough times 100 years ago. Mm-hmm. Canada mistreated the Chinese terribly. Mm-hmm. A lot of people from India had a very rough go, but they prosper and are doing fantastic. And you can't deny a large part of that is because they have very tight, strong family bonds. And why are we not allowed to discuss that? They're trying to break these family bonds.
That's exactly right. That is the one unspeakable variable, is that what we see is that success in adult life has overwhelming correlation with family structure growing up. Neighborhood structure matters too, but a stable home life and stable neighborhood life have almost all of the determining power in terms of how people turn out as adults and how successful they are in whatever society they live in, under whatever cultural rules that happen to predominate there.
That's it. I mean, it's something I said online, and got a bunch of people worked up. It was true. I work downtown. I observe a lot of things, a lot of homelessness, a lot of addiction. I've never seen a homeless person with a turban. Calgary has a very high South Asian population. They are not immune from addiction. They're human like anyone else, yet very, very rare, I'm sure there's an exception or two out there, are they ending up on the street. Again, it comes back to that family unit. So why can't we discuss this?
Well, you said, because that's what they have to destroy. They have to break apart faith. They have to break apart family. They have to depose people of property, because that's how they can control people. What you're talking about in this moment is you're talking about diseases of isolation, diseases of alienation, of loneliness. And so tyrants throughout all of history have weaponized loneliness against people. They make them feel isolated, and they say, just agree with us and we'll be in unity, and then you won't be so isolated. But by the way, if you don't agree with us, we're going to shun you, we're going to smear you, we're going to call you enemies of the people in Mao's China or whatever it is. We're going to put you in second-class citizen status. All you have to do is agree with us. But then what happens is, you lied to fit in. And when you lie to fit in, you sell your soul. And you feel more alone than ever. You have doubts, but you can't say them. So I can't connect with you if I can't talk honestly with you. So now we're isolated from one another. And these are diseases, the addiction, the homelessness. These are diseases of isolation, alienation, and loneliness. And the tyrants weaponize these things. That's why they're on the rise. We can't talk about the fact that stable family structures and neighborhoods are what cure those diseases. Why you see very low rates of them, where families proliferate and where they prosper and thrive. You can't talk about it because it takes away one of their most powerful tools. They need us isolated, lonely, alienated from one another, and feeling like the only place we can turn to get solace is the state or a substance.
So, I mean, just to kind of close things up, in a nutshell, what can people expect to see in coming out to the event tonight and hear from what you've got to share with us?
Well, I can tell you, based on what happened in Edmonton last night, that there's going to be a lot of energy. There's going to be a lot of camaraderie. There's going to be a lot of people from diverse backgrounds. It turns out it's not going to be like some kind of a white supremacy rally. It's nothing like that. They're going to have a lot of fun, I think. And from what people said, I hate to speak this way about my own work, but a lot of clarity about what's going on in the world is what I hope to deliver. And with Take Back Alberta being the sponsors and the people also, hosting this, you're going to hear a lot of things that you can do to get involved and make a difference to take back Alberta, and then Canada, and then, North America, then the world.
Great. And before I let you go as well, where can you find information about yourself and where you're doing your work in general?
Yeah, I have a website. It's called New Discourses. There's a podcast, there's articles. It's located at newdiscourses.com. You can find it on social media at New Discourses on virtually all the social media platforms. Personally, I am Conceptual James on social media, all the platforms except Facebook, which permanently removed me for making a joke about your maid program.
Yeah, well, we don't have time to go into that. Yeah. Terrible ball of wax that's going on there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming out to Alberta and for coming into the studio to talk to us today. I'm looking forward to a fantastic event happening tonight, and we can beat back the woke. As you said, they're already broken. We just need to finish the job.
Yeah, I think so.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah.
You can become a Western Standard member for just $10 a month or $99 a year for unlimited access.